Today, we're joined by Ariel Harmoko, co-founder and CEO of Artifact AI. He is a 3-time national champion racing driver, and he was doing that by the age of 13. I don't even remember what I was doing at the age of 13. I think I was eating my boogers, but I wasn't a national champion race driver, that's for sure. He went on to become the machine learning researcher at the University of Cambridge, and then he interned at JP Morgan Chase to develop a working internal ChatGPT model for software developers and equity derivatives traders. That's a lot to say, but he did that. And that's when he learned that accounting was a pain in the ass to do. He spent a lot of time with tax accountants. He's going to learn his entire journey from being a car driver in Asia to moving to London, to moving to Cambridge, to becoming a mathematician, to becoming a researcher, to becoming an accountant. And now he's building Artifact, the most advanced AI for accounting in finance, right here in London, right next to us here in King's Cross. Ariel is one of the most impressive founders right now, and I can't wait to tell you his story from his words and his experience. Join us right now. Let's get paid. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever you get your fix. All right, let's start from the very beginning. Car racing.
Yes.
MLAI, Cambridge, right?
Yeah.
And accounting.
Then
How the fuck does that even work together? Like, not even, I can't figure out a sentence where that whole thing fits. So
I was born in Indonesia. When I was 8 years old, my stepdad, he brought me onto the racetracks, and he was a rally driver beforehand. And he put me onto one of his friends' go-kart. I just roam around the track. I didn't know which one was the throttle, which one was the brake. I crashed into the tire wall immediately. And my mom was like, man, just stick to academia. Like, this sport is not for you. But my dad was like, no, he's going to be the next Lewis Hamilton, like Sebastian Vettel, whatever. So I did that religiously and professionally. And I started racing.
wait, was your dad who drove you to that?
Yeah, it was my dad.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he kind of convinced me, and I was like, I quite enjoy this, and I was good at it. And so I was racing initially across like Southeast Asia, Japan, and then eventually Europe. So
Okay. How do you move up in categories? Like, you started go-kart,
Yeah.
It's
usually by age, and it's a money sport because it's not like your traditional basketball or football where there's like, like steps into getting into NCAA and then eventually NBA.
Yeah.
And here it's mainly like, oh, Lance Stroll's dad bought a F1 team. Let me just bring my son into the team. Most of it's like money driven. So, but look, like I think we got sponsorship in the early days by Mercedes. So they paid.
Wait, who hustled that?
My dad, yeah.
Amazing.
So he was my he's the
He's a good
CEO.
seller. I can feel it. He's a good seller. That's where you get it from. Like,
He was my manager.
yeah,
He was my manager. And we were traveling across the globe together. And then step by step, like, you enter the World Series karting, WSK, in Europe. And that's where you kind of meet like the people who are in F1 now. So Lando Norris, George Russell. I did well. And then eventually reached Formula 3 after winning a bunch of world championships.
Okay.
Stopped racing at 15 because I was like, it was mentally exhausting and taxing as well. So, and it was very expensive. And my parents, like, I felt bad because they were paying a lot of money for this.
Yeah.
And the chances of you getting to F1, it's quite slim because, again, it's very much money driven.
Yeah.
If you don't have an F1 team, I think the chances are so low. Yeah.
So do you get picked from an F1 team to be an F1 team, or you have to buy your way? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, Lewis Hamilton is like an amazing case, right? He got scouted by McLaren from a very young age.
Okay.
And then he joined the junior driver program. And then he eventually made his way to Formula 1. Same with Max Verstappen, like that, like once in a generation kind of drivers. But most of them get their way in through money, right? It's a classic story.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So there is no like physical attributes or like, you just be born with a bag of money and you're good to go.
Exactly. I think in F1 right now, all the drivers have the same sort of skill set. It's just the cars are just very different to each other. And so you win not only on skill set, but also the team, like the engine.
Okay.
And so I find a lot of parallels now building a company, startup with like actually, building when I was racing as well, because it's very much a team sport more than anything. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The driver is like, I think it counts 30% maybe, and the rest is.
Really?
Yeah.
That little?
Yeah. Yeah.
The rest is the team
The rest is the team.
in the engine.
Innovation, research, R&D. Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you? That's amazing. So how do you judge best teams? Well, I guess it's on the circuit, right? That's how you know.
Yeah.
well, somebody's good or not.
Exactly. How many wins they've got.
So is there like a star engineer that you hire that is going to make a change, is going to develop like that one thing in the engine that is going to make it faster?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. So when I was still in kind of my go-karting stuff, there's always at least one or two engineers in the racetrack that tunes other teams' engine. And this guy's always stealth,
Yeah.
He's that crack engineer in Palo Alto who's juggling 50 jobs at once.
Yeah.
And he got exposed. But there's always that one engineer who's like a star who can tune the engine very well to your needs.
Really?
To the driver's needs, to the track needs, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. What a great sport. Okay, so you hit 15.
Mm-hmm.
You're mentally exhausted.
Yeah.
Your parents are paying for all this.
Right.
And then what happens?
I moved to the UK.
Okay.
So I was always kind of a nerd growing up, passionate about like the maths and sciences. So I want to get as close as possible to where math was born, which is Cambridge. I was so young, I didn't know what I was thinking. So I convinced my parents, like, okay, let me just move to the UK. And they allowed me. So I went to boarding school here. COVID hit, felt really vulnerable, wanted to do something with my skill set in machine learning and AI. So I self-taught most of that. And then when I was in my room in boarding school, I just started brainstorming and building this deep learning model in order to early detect malignant or benign cells in brain tumor MRI scans. And then got that into like a really good app.
Wait, why? Like, like nobody wakes up being like, what am I going to do today?
My inspiration really came from the vulnerability happening across COVID. Like, everyone was like,
yeah.
And also my grandpa was diagnosed with like Parkinson's. So I was so passionate about medtech and early diagnosis. That's where the inspiration came from.
Got it.
And then I sent that research proposal to 20 different professors all over the UK. 19 out of 20 got back to me, but one professor from Cambridge, Professor Alan Blackwell, he was like, come over to the college. And then I went to Jesus College and then met with Stephen Hawking. And then he onboarded me as the youngest machine learning researcher at Cambridge.
You're joking?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
And so we worked there for 2 years. I was partly a researcher at the university, but also they built a spin-off lab trying to early diagnose a bunch of diseases using deep learning. And this was like pre-LLM era. And I was dealing with mathematicians mainly, and they don't like AI. They think like, oh, this is just a black box. Garbage in.
It's pseudo mathematics. Yeah. I know the feeling.
You know how it is.
Right, I know exactly.
But we did well. I mean, we eventually sold the software to the NHS.
Wow.
For celiac disease like detection, early diagnosis. Yeah. And that was quite an inspirational moment for me. That was the first time I ever kind of did production code, and my boss was like, man, this is horrible. This is garbage. This is like, never touch code. Like, read this book. He gave me like a very thick book written by Microsoft on the best practices of programming. But built that culture and value creation and the idea maze. That's where it came from.
Okay,
that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Wow. And then from there to accounting. Yeah, was a leap.
Yeah, so I worked.
So you don't wake up thinking accounting is going to be my passion. Like nobody.
I worked at JP Morgan as an AI researcher
after Cambridge. Okay.
As an AI researcher to deploy their first internal GPT for software developers and equity derivative traders.
Yeah.
So I saw massive potential of like AI in fintech essentially.
Yeah.
I think fintech is cool. But that didn't convince me to do accounting, not yet. What happened was like March 2024, I got into this program. They're trying to become the YC of Europe, and then it's called EWAR, EWOR.
Okay.
It's very new. It's like an accelerator program. And then the CEO of EWAR told me, hey, why not you become a potential CTO for this Berlin-based company trying to automate accounting in Germany? I was like, okay, let's see. So I went. The company at that point like been running for 2 years, burning a lot of cash, and then she offered me to become CTO at 5% to build a whole tech stack from scratch. The current tech stack was a spreadsheet and a human accountant in the background.
You're joking.
And then they sell direct to business. And so they want to build, they asked me to build a whole AI native stack from scratch.
Yeah.
Obviously the offer wasn't great, but I just took the opportunity to just sit down next to these tax advisors and accountants in Germany and see the kind of work they do. And oh my God, like I was frustrated. They were frustrated.
Yeah.
Every time I have a conversation with an accountant there, I ask them like, do you actually enjoy what you're doing? And they say no, but it's got to be done.
Yeah.
They won't try and verify AI to actually do the work for them.
Okay.
And so I took a massive bet on agents before agents was even a thing back then.
Okay.
And so went back to the UK, called up my best friend from JP Morgan, Carter, and then around
Oh, that's how you met Carter.
Yep.
Oh, I did.
we met at JP Morgan.
Was he also computer science?
Yeah.
Oh,
We met in induction day, and then he was flexing on everyone. Hey, I'm gonna build the first ChatGPT for JP Morgan, and I was like, they tasked me to do that. So he got humbled, and started being like competitive friends. But that's how we met.
That's amazing. He's such a good guy.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah. All right, so you call Carter and be like, "Hey, bro, I got an idea for you."
I was like, I want to build the first AI accountant. I didn't know who we're gonna sell to, what the product was gonna look like, and then he's like, "Yeah, that's cool. Let's do it." So he quit his job. That was like,
Oh my God, easiest sell. I'll see Carter doing that. You're like, "Yeah, sounds good to tell."
He's the type of guy. Is like he loves cool tech, right? Like he will just like, yeah, let's do it. And then he quit his job eventually at JP. So. And then the responsibility came to me. I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out what the fuck we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And so September 2024, we did that's the first time we ever actually touched code for Artifact. And we saw two massive problems. One is the fragmented legacy stack that accounting firms are facing, or accountants are having to deal with. And second is the staff shortages that profession is facing.
Yep.
And so, you can build a whole new AI native ERP from scratch and the ground up if you're trying to sell to growing businesses over 10 million ARR. I think that the gap between QuickBooks and NetSuite is massive, and that's where we're seeing a lot of players in the space. But no one has ever been successful in selling at scale to accounting firms because adoption's still slow. They build their career on top of Xero, on top of QuickBooks, so it's very sticky.
Yeah.
So you want to build a system of intelligence or action that is ledger agnostic and does the work for you, essentially.
Okay. Are they all in QuickBooks? So they have what single?
Yeah, majority of accounting firms
vendor
are actually here is Xero in the UK.
Yeah.
US is QuickBooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Xero is a Australian company, I thought.
Yeah,
Right.
Kiwi.
Yeah, in New Zealand. Yeah. Okay, so here is Xero, there's QuickBooks, but it's like one instance for each client.
Correct.
All of them are in the same software. Got it.
I mean, if you reach the big four, like the top 10 accounting firms, then it becomes like NetSuite and SAP.
Yeah.
But the far majority, it's mainly on QuickBooks and Xero.
Okay. And why have QuickBooks and Xero figure it out? Like Xero is not that old.
Yeah, I think the transformation from, like the history of AI or accounting software, you had desktop. So that's like Sage 50, the Tally, QuickBooks desktop, and then you had the cloud era, right?
Yeah.
So that's between like 2010 to even now. And I think they just first mover advantage, and they sold very well to accountants first. And so we're trying to, learn from their playbook, because you want to earn the credibility of the profession before you sell direct to finance teams.
Yep.
Because that's where the real value is. It's your stamp of credibility from the profession. Yeah.
Got it. How do you find all this out? So you have your experience in Germany with the 5, angry tax accountants next to you.
Right.
Then you call Carter, who doesn't know shit about accounting. What happens next? How do you find this massive niche?
I think so. Well, doing your own market research, I can't like ChatGPT has been amazing for that. Yeah, right. I think everyone here.
I never met anybody. Really.
I think everyone can agree. And the other thing I spoke briefly about is finding that advisor.
Yep.
Yeah. So the outsider thesis, it's the reason why people from industry can't build a successful business or a new business from scratch is because they're comfortable with the status quo.
Right.
I think as an outsider, you're viewing things from a very different lens.
Yeah.
And some part of that is true, but also more work is required for you to be able to learn from the industry, right? Because who is this guy? Okay, you did ML, but you're not an accountant, and accountants are it's on a different spectrum. They don't want to talk to it. Yeah. So finding advisors, I think that's been very helpful.
Yeah.
And then just learning from them and learning from customers, really.
So how did you land your first customer? What was the pitch? How do they trust you?
Yeah.
You don't know shit about accounting. You don't even look like an accountant.
Yeah.
You don't come from accounting. There's nothing accounting around you. So how do you go into your first firm to trust you with your new AI shiny thing?
Yes.
to the
So
first thing.
we were actually selling on a Figma prototype,
Yep.
a Figma designs, Figma pages. This was early on in our journey. So like December 2024, all the way to like February, January 2025. But one thing I realized, it's the profession is ready to pay for AI. It's just they don't know who to trust because of all the noise, right? And one thing, the early learnings I have,
Wait, where is the noise coming from? Like, who is making the noise? Is it the LLMs or is it other competitors of yours?
the LLMs. I think in the UK we were probably one of the first movers, or one of two first movers. So like the sell was a lot easier compared to the US.
Yeah.
The way we got our first customer, so Xero does this Xero Bronze, Xero Gold, Xero Silver for accounting firms who uses a lot of Xero. It's part of their marketing technique.
Yeah.
And on their website, they list all the firms that are Xero super like users, power users.
They do? Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. What a cheat.
So we found the head of digital transformation listed on every one of these firms listed in the Xero marketplace. I just started calling them, man. And then we got on call with a top 60 firm, with the head of digital transformation. And they were like blown away by, we had like an MVP, but it was not like amazing.
Yeah.
But he understood the vision. And I think the education piece for accountants is super important, especially in the sales motion.
Yeah.
We're training them, such a legacy profession, on what actually is an agent, what actually is AI, the difference between RPA versus an agent. I think that all is super important to be embedded within your sales motion.
Yeah.
And so I force all my salespeople now to even like learn about the agents that we're building internally. I think you have to educate the accountants here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how we got.
So that first customer,
Mhm.
did everybody respond positively, or everybody was like, nah, this is a fad, it will pass? But there was one guy that just said, yes, let's go. Like how, because I imagine like head of digital transformation, they're all interested, right? Like you got some AI sprinkle. Yeah, come, let's go.
Yeah. So it needs to be top down as always. Like it's either director of outsourcing, because the alternative they have is BPOs, right?
Right.
And then BPOs are always unreliable, and they don't want to train a whole new BPO team to like learn their internal management, and then hiring.
So they're stuck with what BPO.
Hiring bookkeepers is expensive. So
yeah. There's not that many of them. That's the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we pitch it as an outsourced bookkeeping engine you have internally in the firm, and they're like,
oh, that's interesting.
That's so cool. And then
do you do that knowing that you're going to go into the BPO budget and into the headcount budget, or do you just do it out of instinct?
That's a good question, and we're still having these conversations with different firms. Like it becomes, okay, is this a labor budget? Is it a software budget?
Yeah.
The value you get from a BPO in India versus a human bookkeeper in the UK is very different as well.
Yeah.
So
in what sense?
Like the quality of work, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you can tell. Interesting.
You can definitely tell. Like you're having to spend a lot more time investing and training the BPOs compared to like if you hire a human bookkeeper.
Right, here, who's seen it before, and
exactly.
It's all ramped.
Exactly.
Got it.
So yeah, we're still having to navigate and mitigate those concerns.
Yeah.
But I think the ROI really comes when you prove through the time to value needs to be low, and also the accuracy needs to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because it's not like law where it's a thin layer and the human at the end still makes the decision. I think legal AI, it's quite an easy product to build, but in accounting, if you don't get your tax rate correct, like you're fucked.
Yeah.
So you need to actually build trust through accuracy. And that's been the hardest bit for us. Yeah.
Tell me more. Like, how accurate were you when you started, and how accurate you're right now, and what's that journey like?
Yeah. So the way we kind of penetrated and thought about our niche was, okay, let's take an accounting firm, bookkeeping department. Yeah. What's the client breakdown and client portfolio of each of these firms?
Yeah.
And one way you can segment that is what accounting software they're sitting on. So either QuickBooks or Xero, the SMBs, but also what industry they are in. So maybe it's nonprofit, retail, manufacturing, construction. And then the hardest bit for building a product in this space is...
Oh, and they all have different tax rates.
Correct. Different chart of accounts.
Oh, wow.
So your product naturally has to close the books for all these clients.
Oh, wow.
And so like, that's hard to build. So you don't...
Yeah.
You want to stack them up, stack S curves. industry per industry.
Yeah.
And you can start seeing where the product is good at.
Are you starting one in particular, or you went after all?
E-commerce,
E-commerce.
and SaaS.
Got it.
The integration required there is like Stripe, PayPal, Klarna, Molly Square, and then Shopify, Etsy, WooCommerce.
Yeah.
And so we sit on top of like cloud storage services, and then we do the reconciliation. So we prove time to value very well there.
Yeah.
And we wanted to move up and build a more horizontally scaling agent.
Yeah.
And the problem is data, because like accountants, most of their knowledge is in their heads implicitly.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they're making decisions of categorizing these transactions, they don't actually have a reason for it. It's all kind of like, oh, I know this client because this client is serving this particular industry. That's why I'm categorizing this transaction as like a software, for example, instead of subscription. So we wanted to build a platform that basically they can fine-tune models for each firm. So for any actions they provide in the platform, it's self-learning.
Yeah.
So they can fine-tune whether it's client-specific, industry-specific, or firm-wide, and it constantly gets better. And so the way we pitch is like, treat this as an investment of you building your own AI model that can get to 100% accuracy. And so
interesting.
They're like, okay, now I don't have to spend on this, Copilot, Microsoft Copilot licenses that it's not even self-learning.
Right.
So yeah, that's
how do you prove that you're self-learning? Like, do you have like a chart? How do you show it to them that things are getting better?
Observability, trust is everything in terms of UI UX in the agentic space. So the number of tasks, for example, so this month they had 50 tasks. Next month, maybe it's 20 tasks.
Yeah.
That it shows the agents are actually learning and are doing a lot more work now. So ROI dashboard is super important. So showing like how the agents are performing, is it actually learning? But we show that through the number of pending tasks, essentially.
Interesting.
For each accountant.
Do you have like a way to review what tasks were performed accurately versus not, and showing that going up into the right over time? Is that how you like how like say more like how do you do that?
Yeah, so
they expect to be shitty at the very beginning, and it's gonna be amazing in 3 months.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's how we actually pitch it. Okay. But the baseline accuracy needs to be good enough to a decent level of accuracy for you to actually show some sort of value, right?
Okay.
We don't want them to be bombarded by thousands of tasks per month, because that's not automation.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't want our customers to basically be human labelers.
Okay, so tasks is actually human tasks that they have to perform. So what needs to be done? Got it now. So it's 50, now it's 20, then it's 10.
Correct.
Because
it's tasks that's being flagged by the agents because the confidence level is low.
Got it.
Yeah.
So how do you get agents to catch their own mistakes? Like how's that work?
It's all in the probability sense. Like if the user says, okay, for any agentic actions that is less than X% confidence, you need to flag it to me.
Yeah.
So you want to build the configuration to them. So we're seeing like, okay, anything that's less than 40%, we're flagging that back to the accountants.
Got it.
Anything more than that, it's because like, okay, sometimes you're trying to match a document to a transaction. A document has like, a vendor, subtotal. The metadata from the bank transaction we got is you don't see the vendor, but the total matches. So okay, what's the confidence there, right?
Yeah. So how do you charge your clients then? Like you are replacing headcount in the UK and BPOs. Yeah. That's a huge budget pool. How do you dip into the budget pool? How do you make money?
So as of now, we're charging based on per client. So it's tiered. Starting tier is like up to 50 clients, then up to 150, up to 350. Then it becomes like an enterprise contract.
Okay.
And then the way we cap and protect ourselves is automated ledger entries. And it's actually, thanks to your platform and your product, that we're actually being able to track these ALEs very carefully.
Yeah.
So we came up with this thing, any ledger event, that whether it's a document transaction moved across to the ledger, that's one ALE.
Yeah.
And then we basically give them like a credit system.
Yeah. And are all the ALEs the same, or are some more expensive than others?
It's all the same.
Got it. And if I'm correct, I think some of them are lookups into some like scanned documents that you have to extract information, and then do the bookkeeping, right?
Yes,
That is super expensive.
that's super expensive.
So tell me more about it. Why is that expensive, and how could you make it cheaper?
Yeah, I think, OCR has always been expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we do work with like some super strong companies trying to solve document intelligence and document extraction. Um, we rather spend a lot more on trying to get accuracy up rather than latency, in my opinion,
Got it.
because everything starts at that source document.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And if we can't even get or extract the vendor name or any total correctly, then the downstream task it fails.
Right.
So we're now kind of fine tuning our own small language models just because we have the data for it.
Yeah.
I think in the early days, we're having to spend insane amounts of money to find the right vendors and right models to actually do document extraction carefully.
Got it. How will you stack rank yourself versus the competition that is coming up in the automated
In the accounting space.
space? Yeah.
So I think there's two buckets. You
Yeah.
can become a mid-market ERP.
Yeah.
Like Rillet, Campfire, Dual Entry.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of those. Like I'm a big fan of Rillet. And then you have our bucket, which is a system of intelligence. It depends who you're selling to. I don't see those startups trying to replace Xero QuickBooks going to win, because Xero and QuickBooks, it's like it works. It's cheap. It's sticky.
Yeah.
So with us,
So what are they trying to do? It's like how are they gonna win?
I think I see them selling to accountants as well through the accounting channel, but that's a much harder pitch. And then as a business owner, why would I pay 5 times more for an accounting software if Xero does the work already?
Yeah.
And a Xero plus a human accountant is actually much cheaper than buying like an AI accounting software.
Got it.
So it's a very hard sell.
Yeah.
And then for us, like the bucket we're sitting on is like a system of intelligence that sells direct to accounting firms.
Yeah.
So we're definitely kind of leading that platform race in a sense of self-learning and being able to build a horizontally scaling agent. But we definitely need to win the distribution race, which is the next phase of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you win? What's
I think
what's the unlock?
The biggest unlock is showing the S-curve stack per industry.
Yeah.
Like we want to show the accuracy rates per industry is just off the charts. And that's how we win on product, like definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, but at some point, like how do you get the distribution to be easier over time? Like right now you're putting hard miles, right? Like you're talking to each accounting firm one at a time.
Right.
I'm sure you're trying to pick the largest ones because they're bringing the most amount of money,
Yeah.
right? So like how does it work it out faster over time?
So now, like in the past 3 months, my efforts in the US have been paying off because we're now getting inbound from top 100 firms.
Interesting.
And joining
Was that through ads or like how are you doing that?
It's joining BDO Alliance Group and all these alliances.
Yeah.
And so, getting on podcast marketing is a big one, branding.
Yeah.
Jason Stats is this amazing AI like accounting guy, and he reviews all the tech daily.
Yeah.
And he mentioned Artifact out of nowhere, and then we're getting all these inbound from people.
Interesting.
And like, wow,
what persona is inbounding you? Is this CDIO, like this
head of CAS? So CAS is another fancy way of saying bookkeeping department.
Got it.
They just say client advisory services in the US. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
So the margins, they realize bookkeeping is so commoditized, and they want to build more services for clients.
Yeah.
As an accounting firm. And that's how we're providing it. Like we're actually building a new product. I haven't mentioned this to you, but it's an agentic orchestration layer that only allows. We can only build this now because of our core product. The core product collects that data, makes the agent more accurate, and we're hosting our agents into this new orchestration layer.
Okay.
So they can basically orchestrate their own accounting workflows.
Okay.
It's like NAN for accounting, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's very much vertically focused.
Interesting. Is the customer doing the design of the workflow, or is it something you're doing for them?
Yeah, we have workflow templates, and they can like see, okay, how other accountants are thinking about building workflows.
Okay.
We give the power back to them.
Interesting.
And it should be low code, super no code, so they can actually drag and drop, right?
Right.
I think the problem with NAN is like sometimes you need to learn a bit of SQL and scripting and Python to be able to make a robust, scalable kind of workflow end to end.
Yeah.
So this is going to be like the biggest game changer
That's amazing.
that the market has ever seen.
That's amazing.
Because not only we cover bookkeeping, then they can also build workflows for their clients. That's where the margins comes. That's
Okay.
where most.
Such as what? Like what's a workflow for a client?
So each client has very different management reporting
Yep.
templates.
Mm-hmm.
They're spending like hours and hours a day, these accountants, and they can build this workflow automation that they click on 2 minutes, it gets the work done. And then, there's also co-sourcing
Yeah.
models between accounting firms and finance teams, typically mid-market,
Yeah.
in terms of like what tools they can work together on, etc., the automation. So this basically serves as the interface layer between the accountants and the clients.
So how are you going to charge for that? Same concept of like automation?
Maybe per workflow. We haven't figured that out.
Okay.
I think, but one workflow varies to another workflow, right? Like, I know Mistral is doing the same thing where they're charging like sprint cycles now,
Okay.
dev cycles, using FDEs. I think if you layer in FDEs plus this sort of workflow automation, you can definitely charge per workflow.
Yeah. Or workflow setup, right? So we set up the workflow and then you run it. So it's a setup fee and a running fee, or just one fee?
Setup and then subscription.
Yeah.
And the workflow.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're using FDEs.
Yes.
What's your flavor like? And how do you jump in this bandwagon? Like, is it working out? Is it not working out? Like, what's
It's definitely working out.
Yeah.
I think it's much needed. Like, if you look at the pyramid of like, data integration, data mapping, and then the UI UX component in such a legacy space and where the data is actually super messy,
Mm-hmm.
that data integration problem is so important. And
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
only
yeah.
crack that with someone sitting next to your customer to understand what it is they require, but how to map that data back to a software, essentially.
Do your FDEs code?
Yes, 100%.
They code in your platform and your customer's platform, or what? How does it work?
So with this workflow orchestration we're building, they're actually using this to go to customers, and it's like a Miro board almost, where they
Okay.
can display
Yeah.
how the workflow would look like. So in that sense, they're coding, and they're bringing it back to the engineers to basically code the software.
Yeah.
We haven't actually touched the customer's code yet.
Are you selling them separately, or are you bundling into the package that you sell?
Bundling. Yeah.
Is there how do you think about that at scale? Like, are you going to charge for them their time and materials kind of thing, or are you going to make the contracts bigger?
I think we're going to definitely expand the contract.
Yeah.
Like we bundle the core product alongside this FDE cycle.
Yeah.
The core product obviously serves a subset of their clients.
Yeah.
But this new workflow builder, it's more for them to be like, oh, but I want to build this, and we're kind of a sounding board for them.
Yeah.
And we actually can deploy this software. And so we can combine them. I think in the long term, we definitely need to differentiate that for sure.
What's the minimum contract size to get an FDE, or what's your minimum contract size in general?
30K.
30K. So you get an FDE with 30K, or you don't get an FDE with 30K?
You don't get an FDE.
That's what I was done. So at what point does it make sense to bring an FDE? How long do they stay?
So a contract that starts at 200K, I think makes total sense.
Yep.
For like an annual contract.
Yep.
We don't want to bundle it up to a multi-year contract, because the way our model works is each accounting firm has massive potential expansion revenue for us.
Mm-hmm.
And the product will naturally get better, and we don't want to close them down in a 2-year contract, because we know the next year we can serve a lot more clients of the firm.
Yeah.
And clients. So we kind of like cover that within one annual contract.
So if I sign a $200,000 contract with you, how many clients are you supporting me?
You get up to 200 clients.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what percentage of wallet is that, give or take? Like, how many percent of the total do you have?
Depends for each accounting firm.
Okay.
So the biggest client we have is 6,000 clients.
Got it.
So the expansion revenue there can be anywhere from 3 to 5 million.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So
how do you expand? You just like do a good job and they give you the next bucket?
Correct. Implementation, proving the agents are learning, the self-learning bit. And so that builds trust, and they can bring in more clients. Yeah.
So I'm sure you get this question all the time. So what happens when you have 100% of all the clients? Do you have like additional stuff for them, or like how does that work?
That's where the new product comes in.
Okay.
And I think...
Oh, like reporting and like the analytics, what extra service packs, like what other services you get at the customers. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So how big is this TAM? Like how...
$600 billion. That's like the
that is if you replace all the accounting firms,
Yes.
everything goes to agents.
Yes. That's only, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens to the accounting profession if you win? Like, does it disappear, or like does it become like
If we
one
win,
man shops running 1,000 agents?
I can see us acquiring other smaller firms,
Yeah.
and then we become an AI accounting firm, like the best AI accounting firm known to mankind, and just replace the big four.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna serve them, you're just gonna replace them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Once we win the market through selling to accounting firms, let's say we get all the top 100 firms across UK and US.
Yeah.
I don't see us, why can't we become an accounting firm and sell to a larger TAM of direct to finance teams?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So like the accounting profession as we know it right now will probably shrink quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're a kid going into college right now, would you tell them to go into accounting? You're like, stay away from that.
Probably not. I think accounting firm owners are also telling, interns or like, don't do accounting, because like it requires a whole different skill set now to be an accountant.
Interesting.
Because like it was pen and paper, then a cloud software came.
Yeah.
Xero and the QuickBooks made such a weird UI on how accounting actually is.
Yeah.
And so now they're trained on Xero QuickBooks, and now we have AI. Most of the time, like they're reviewing work rather than doing work.
Right.
So like, I don't know, like you don't necessarily do the work anymore. You're reviewing.
So how do you think about, I was thinking about the same thing, but then all these tariffs, is starting to pass, like whether they pass or not, or like, how they'll settle, so still unknown, right? But there's so much uncertainty.
Mhm.
And when the world is that uncertain, and there is tariffs and counter tariffs, and the accountants are on the receiving end of all that, right? Like they're the ones who have to figure out like what tax are you exposed to that you weren't before, et cetera.
Correct.
Are the machines smart enough to like go all the way down to interpreting the law and figure out what's it mean to your customer?
Yes.
Or because like a lot of like, I have my own accounting firm that estimates stuff, right? Like depending on, because, I'm a US citizen, I live in the UK. So there's all this like gray area. And like half the time they're like guessing. So how is a machine going to replace that kind of guessing, or is it actually faster and more accurate than a human being?
I think at that point it aids the decision, right?
Okay.
Like, there's the research aspect of accounting, which is mostly on tax, actually.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of tax providers, like Stanford Tax, they build a whole kind of tax database of all the tax queries in the world, to be able to train an AI or an agent that can bring you these decisions.
Yeah.
But I think there are certain things in accounting that is just like black or white, and it's either right or wrong.
Right.
So on the tax interpretation stuff, like we basically kind of provide tools for the accountants to make a really robust decision.
Right.
Almost like in legal, right?
Yeah. So talking to our audience who are all agent builders, what would you have done differently? Because you started in 2024, right?
Right.
Now you know a lot more.
Okay, yeah.
Than when you did back then. So how would you have started Artifact differently? Like what would you have done differently?
I think
for those, wannabe warriors out there.
So in the vertical AI space, like data is still such a moat, and being able to acquire that data in the early stage and having your own internal infrastructure of evals and self-learning feedback in your product is so important. It took us a while to figure out, okay, we can only scale if accuracy is at a very high level. And in order to do that, we need to get data. And so we had to build our own internal self-learning systems and eval benchmarks before kind of scaling, right?
Yeah.
So that took us a while. I think thinking about that now versus later can be really beneficial for you.
Yeah.
What else? I think pricing is definitely something you need to be on top of.
Nice.
Because it's an ongoing conversation with the customers, but I think your job as like a founder of an AI company is to tell them exactly what does pricing mean in the age of AI.
Right.
What budget do you actually tap into?
Right.
And the ROI you're getting from both budgets. So yeah, those two are
that's amazing.
Best advice.
That's amazing. So you put on X the other day that there is all these non-technical founders talking NCP, talking about talking, and that it just makes you cringe. Why does it make you cringe? Why is everybody talking out of their ass out there that you're like, oh my God, I wish they would shut up?
Yeah, I think it's, the frustration comes when, even when selling to accountants, I say, oh, so do you use AI in your practice? I'm like, yeah, I use ChatGPT and Perplexity. I'm like, that. And then they see our product, like, oh, what the fuck? I didn't realize it was like this, advanced. So, I think there's a lot of AI slop out there, and AI content, and people are chasing validity more than building an actual good product.
Right.
So that's where the frustration comes from. But yeah, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I just find it annoying.
Is that why you moved to New York instead of San Francisco, or was it just for customers?
Customers mainly.
Okay.
So like my engineering hub is in London. Yeah. And so the time zone makes sense.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Not to stay on the quiet side of the noise.
That too, maybe.
Yeah. How you finding New York versus London?
It's amazing. I think, people are, the tech ecosystem is good. SF is definitely a lot better to build.
Yeah. Why? Wait, why?
Because the ecosystem is much stronger than anyone else. I think,
Okay.
like anywhere else. Anything you need is always someone down the road to help you. But for us, it's more like fintech. So New York makes absolute sense.
Got it. Cool. This has been amazing. Thank you again for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
This is long overdue.
Yeah.
Because you're a man of travel all the time. The hell was on the road.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.